chapters 1 to 15 of Exodus. This is the second book in the Bible after Genesis. And let's see if I can get this thing to share screen. Just walk through it. So here's Exodus and a couple of scenes. So Moses, they're enslaved. And then he has to run away. God calls him, however, to come back and get his people out of slavery. And so here's the scene. A long time passed. Actually, let's start here. So God sees the people. Meanwhile, Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. Leading the flock across the desert, he came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There an angel of the Lord appeared to him in fire flaming out of a bush. As he looked on, he was surprised to see that the bush, though on fire, was not consumed. So Moses decided, I must go over to look at this remarkable sight and see why the bush is not burned. When the Lord saw him coming over to look at the more closely, God called out to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. He answered, here I am. God said, come no nearer, remove your sandals from your feet. For the place where you stand is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And God tells him all these things. And he's heard the cry, come now, I'll send you to Pharaoh. Moses objects, who am I that I should go? God says, I'll be with you. And then he says, well, when I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, if they ask me, what is his name? What am I to tell them? God replied, I am who am. Then he added, this is what you shall tell the Israelites. I am sent me to you. God spoke further to Moses, thus shall you say to the Israelites, the Lord your God, your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever. This is the title for all generations, etc., etc. And so he's going to go. And a couple things here to think about. One is just the whole setting. Like, why are we in this situation? And who are these Israelites? They are an immigrant minority that's threatening, or apparently threatening, this majority. This is a story that happens over and over in history, is happening today, where people are afraid of this other people that has so many children, and they don't want them to have children, and they don't want them to have reproductive freedom. So they tell them not to have kids, and then they kill their sons, and they take away their reproductive rights. And luckily, Moses's mother and sister hide him, and then even more luckily, Pharaoh's daughter finds him and in the basket in the river and so forth. So, and then Moses is the chosen one who's going to save the people. And God appears to him in the burning bush. And a lot has been said about the burning bush, but what is it? It's stasis, something that stays the same, and it's change at the same time. It's static and it's ever changing, which is a contradiction. How can something be like that? And that's, in a way, what God is. or one way of thinking about that which is transcendent, whether you believe in God or just believe in the universe or whatever, that there's this element, perhaps, that has this quality, that it's in undescribable, undefinable, beyond the human capacity and so forth. So, that gets Moses's attention, and so he looks at it, and so isn't that the way the universe kind of works with us? Sometimes, like, we're sort of lost. He's sort of, his people are enslaved, and then like something catches his attention. Hey, look over here, and then that is the beginning of the fight for justice and for freedom. And this is what I'm going to call the transcendent. And to transcend is something that's beyond. And so the transcendent is that which is beyond the kind of physical, visible, viewable part of reality. And I'm not trying to make a religious claim. I'm trying to talk about it kind of philosophically and psychologically, although obviously you can take it religiously. But let me define this in a non-religious term, in the sense, in this, like, for the human, this is about human experience. It's not just about like things, but the way the human experiences the world. Human experience. And the way the human experiences the world, we experience objects, we experience like the trees and the air and the dirt, like we experience these things and other people, but we don't just observe them, because there's moments of crisis, and of kind of being stripped bare. And when you're stripped bare, like you've lost everything, whether that's, in a certain sense, Moses here, or the story of Job, another story in the Bible, or people like Nelson Mandela, who his people were enslaved in South Africa, and he was put in prison and stripped bare in prison for many, many years, and like seemed like there was no hope, but he stuck to his guns. And so let's just put Mandela here, or another Israelite or a modern Jew would be Viktor Frankl in the Holocaust, in various concentration camps, stripped bare, nothing but his soul self. And that's when the transcendent rises. That's when it comes, because normally you can't see it, but it's kind of like that moment of the burning bush, that like at that moment of crisis and stripped bareness, then the transcendent, let's just put a little T there, kind of comes out and it shines. And I'm trying to make this non-religious, but I like just think about Nelson Mandela. Was there something real? Was justice shining in his experience? Well, it had an effect. It changed the history of the world. He won. Viktor Frankl, his people mostly died, but his story is real, and it's a celebration of the Jewish people in their spirit surviving beyond the Holocaust. Good. And then we have the name of God, I am. Well, he's given two names. One is I am, one is I am who am. And this is an English version, and I don't know Hebrew, but I've been told that the Hebrew, it's just the verb, like I am, or I being, or I was, or I will be. Like it's just the verb to be, with no particular time frame. And it's just I be who be, I am who am, I will be who will be. And different theologians and philosophers have ruminated on this, and like one concept is that one of the things that this could be saying is that God, in this sense, is being itself, the being of being, the existence of existence, something like that. And I don't know if the original authors meant that, but it seems to me that that's a rich way of taking this text, and it makes sense. It does seem to be consonant with the image here of the God of the Hebrews, of the Israelites, in this text in Exodus. Good. So that's that. Let's look at couple scenes here. So there's all these different things that happen, but let's look at what God says about himself when he's talking to Moses and reassuring him, because like things don't go well, and like Pharaoh's not letting the people go, and he's making things worse on them, and Moses is saying, God, like this is not working out here, and like this is a moment of crisis, like of being stripped bare, as I was saying. And here is God saying, I also established my covenant. So here's the promise. This is that narrative theology. My covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they were living as aliens. And now that I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are treating as slaves, I am mindful of my covenant. There's the covenant. Therefore, say to the Israelites, I am the Lord. I will free you from the forced labor of the Egyptians and will deliver you from their slavery. I will rescue you by my outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my own people, and you shall have me as your God. You will know that I, the Lord, am the God, your God, when I free you from the labor of the Egyptians and bring you, I lost my place, and bring you into the land which I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you as your own possession, I, the Lord. But when Moses told this to the Israelites, they would not listen to him because of their dejection and hard slavery and so forth. But yeah, so just to underline the promise, which God has to keep saying this because Moses keeps doubting, and the people keep doubting. And even though they do these amazing miracles, and there's like all these frogs, and there's the waters turned into blood, and there's the flies. Anyway, there's an amazing set of plagues here. Let's look at just one of them real quick, which is which one is this? The waters turn to blood. And so, he's there with Aaron and Pharaoh. Moses and Aaron did as the Lord had commanded. Aaron raised his staff and struck the waters of the river in full view of Pharaoh and his servants, and all the water of the river was changed into blood. The fish in the river died, and the river itself became so polluted that the Egyptians could not drink its water. There was blood throughout the land of Egypt, but the Egyptian magicians did the same by their magic arts. So Pharaoh remained obstinate and would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had foretold. He turned away and went into his house with no concern even for this. All the Egyptians had to dig in the neighborhood of the river for drinking water, since they could not drink the river water, etc. And so, yes, this is just one of these many plagues. They don't work until the last one, where the firstborn dies, and Pharaoh is not happy with that. We have the Passover, and I can't go into all of this, but let's just look at the Passover ritual. Where they, well, I guess I'll just tell it to you because it's too long. And I want to do a song, but I'm by this stadium and it's making all this noise because there's a football game on. Hopefully that won't mess up my song. But yeah, so you have the Passover lamb, never know how to draw a lamb. They kill the lamb, they take its blood, and they put it on the doorpost, all this blood over here. And meanwhile, they have a meal. And this is still to this day done by the Jews. It's called the Seder meal, with all kinds of symbolism even to this day. And as they do it, they say, this is happening to us. This is my identity. This is who I am. And so these rituals, which were first done, at least according to the book of Exodus, whatever this is, 1,300 years ago, 1,300 years before the time of Jesus, BCE, before the Common Era, that here we are, 3,500 years later, and they're in that chain of identity. This is who you are, and then they tell this story to this day. And so ritualized storytelling, which I'm really into, this concept, like really all of literature in some way is a kind of echo of this type of ritualized storytelling. And so that this is how I'm reading these ancient myths, and then even really modern myths, for that matter. So the angel of death passes over because of the blood, and it does kill the firstborn of the Egyptians, and then Pharaoh lets them go. And then there's the whole Red Sea and everything else, parting of the Red Sea, and it's quite cool. Makes for good films. And I saw that there's of course the old film with Charlton Heston, very, very interesting. And so anyway, I'm going to do a quick song here. I'm going to try and relate it to this topic, and it's Who Will Stop the Rain? It's an old song from a group called Credence, and hopefully this won't mess up the sound, because there's this really loud music coming from the neighborhood here. Okay, let's see if we can watch my guitar playing here. And so sorry, it's E minor, sorry. Okay. Can you see that? Okay. Long as I remember, rain's been coming down, clouds of mystery pouring, confusion on the ground. Good men through the ages, trying to find the sun. Still I wonder who'll stop the rain. Went down to Virginia, seeking shelter from the storm. Caught up in the fable, I watched the tower grow. 5-year plans and new deals, wrapped in golden chains. Heard the singers playing, how we cheered for more. Crowd had rushed together, trying to keep warm. Still the rain kept pouring, falling on my ears, and I wonder still And so who will stop the rain from Credence? And I guess I'll just read you some of these. So it's like, oh, uh, you know, it's this kind of suffering. Okay, there's rain coming down. This is like, not fun. It's kind of a symbol of suffering. And he's waiting for the rain. Who's going to stop the rain? Long as I remember, the rain's been coming down. Like, this is like my whole life. The story of my life has been pain and suffering and agony, confusion on the ground, good men trying to find the sun. And I wonder who will stop the rain. So this is this kind of crisis moment of, like, trying to find the meaning. I'm in my meaning crisis. And he goes to Virginia, seeking shelter from the storm, caught up in the fable. I watched the tower grow. Not sure what that means. 5-year plans and New Deal. So this is like the government's trying to, like, come up with 5-year plans and New Deals wrapped in golden chains. And I wonder who will stop the rain. And so, like, yeah, these things, there are these great economic plans and like taxing systems and stuff, but it's like a golden chain. It's still kind of like not working out. It's still negative. And so I heard the singers playing, how we cheered for more. The crowd had rushed together trying to keep warm. So, like, at least we have each other. Let's try and keep warm. Still, the rain kept pouring, falling on my ears, and I wondered it'll stop the rain. And so this is like, yeah, an image of the meaning crisis. It's an image that we can relate to Moses or any of these figures who are kind of wrestling with their suffering, trying to figure out, like, where's that transcendent, like, beyond, like, I know, like, my human heart desires meaning, and it's there, and, like, but it's not there. And so it's like, you got to keep looking for it. And sometimes it pops out at you, like for Moses, and then God or the universe kind of brings justice to his people and freedom and liberation. And so, like, we're looking for liberation and freedom for us. And so, yeah. And then next week we're gonna do the Taoist book, which I think I left in the other room, but it's the Tao Te Ching, wonderful ancient Chinese text, traditionally ascribed to Lao Tzu, the philosopher Lao Tzu, kind of responding to the dominant tradition at the time, which was Confucianism, which was kind of very logical and rational, kind of definitely axial age, kind of proper. And then, but this is sort of like the other side, kind of more the right hemisphere side of the axial age, with a holistic sense of the yin and yang balance, and, like, neither one kind of dominating, and kind of even kind of foregrounding. You're going to see a more feminine side. I would use that guardedly, but, like, but the yin and the yang, and the yin is the feminine, the yang is the masculine. So they did think in terms of these gender kind of stereotypes, but basically just like the concept, not necessarily actual women or men, but yeah. So he is a kind of feminist reading we're going to look at with Taoism, and kind of valuing of that holistic pattern perceiving, big picture perceiving type of approach, more than the kind of logical left hemisphere approach. So stay tuned for that, and we'll do that next week.